Yes, I got it. As you can see from my shirt, I'm wearing one of my Saga Boy shirts
I see.
in keeping with this festival. Remember when we're going, this is Saga Boy, you're wearing sort of bank holiday, and these kind of combinational colors were considered country clothes. Right now, it's become fashionable. It only shows you how things have changed and tastes have changed.
Oh
So I thought that
yes.
I would get into the old traditional Belgian spirit by dressing accordingly. But you gave me such a real welcome. I almost said keep talking because I was enjoying it. I was,
Well, Glyne, I have to say that you know me, and I don't waste words when I speak. I'm very honest. I sit at the feet of persons like yourself, and I learn a lot. And I appreciate you educating all of us, not just myself, but all of us on the loyal opposition, with the years of experience that you have had, especially in the realm of governance and politics.
thank you very much. But please believe me, I also listen to the others like you on the show to learn from you, to learn their perspective or further information. So it's a mutual relationship. And
Yes,
I'm
yes,
glad and proud
absolutely.
to be able to contribute to it. So that's why I like to listen to the program has had a certain level of information and
Hmm.
dealing with topics, which
Hmm.
I think has made it uh, earn a lot of respect and support. And I hope to contribute by maintaining that high standard. But before I get into my topic, I just want to say that if I ever were to have the opportunity to speak to the Prime Minister again and ask a question, my first question would be, please explain to me in simple, clear cut language that me and all other Barbarians can understand. What was your thinking behind giving away that mammoth acre of public land at the Jamet's Lane? Yeah, please explain what free of course. Explain to me what was the rationale, what logic secretly because we never knew about it, but at least help us to understand. But she's never yet sought to justify it. She's never once yet sought to put the public by their ease by trying to explain in some kind of way why she did it. Because, and I say that because she comes from a family which has had long-standing interest in real estate,
Hmm.
in acquiring properties all over Barbados. So having and every part of the Barbadian dream had me to own a piece of the rock. So having that, why would you give it away? Why?
Yes, yes. Why?
What got into your head? Because no other leader of Barbados had ever even come close to doing something as atrocious as that. And to me, that is unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable. There's no justification. When other countries around the world are controlling especially smaller countries and vulnerable countries, the ownership of their land and property, but outsiders, we are giving it away. Not even leasing or renting or
Yeah.
whatever. Amazing. Anyhow,
Wow.
that
Wow.
that that would be my take. But my topic tonight for it is some national hits and misses. Some national hits and misses. Let me explain. When I use the term hits, I'm referring to successful events or actions that have taken place over the last week or so. And when I talk about misses, I'm referring to failures or disappointing or things that have fallen short. So I'm going to look at, I wouldn't have time enough to do a lot, but I think there are two or three which I would like to get into. First of all, um, I want to deal with, I'm dealing with this stuff because a lot of people would have been naturally been distracted and whether they like it or not, or their mind would have been distracted or taken up with the necessary and the usual and expected hubbub and of corpora, etc., which has officially come to an end today. So I want to bring people back to reality and back to real life. And and so I do so by first of all saying that one of the most enduring and impactful events in the last week or so, to my mind, as a person and as a still self-considered journalist and news person interested in and evaluating events, would have been the question of crime. And we made right question of crime, particularly what seems to be a new trend of the Commissioner of Police in informing the public on a more fulsome and frequent level as to what is happening with the force, their successes, their intentions, giving us glimpses into their strategy, their tactics. I want to commend the Commissioner of Police for that. for that for coming to the public and explaining, because that way by using the media to inform the public, it gets their buy-in, they understand, they can follow the logic or lack of it in the event. And therefore, because they can understand and rationally follow, it means they are more likely to support and understand and give the police service the needed attention and support to continue this ongoing fight against crime. But I think that while they must come in, the police commissioner's action, and he's using more data and step-by-step information to inform us. So I want to commend, and the public can only get better, and you can get only more support by doing it that way. So, and I would like to encourage him to keep it up. And I noticed in his presentation, he made reference to a topic which I had pointed out and mentioned and I'd been critical of in one of my most recent presentations, was the question of what I call scrambler bikes. These bikes that are being used are now part of tools of the trade internationally for gangsters and terrorists and assassins and whatnot. And I said then, he made reference to it, and it reminded me that just like because just like guns part of the tools of trade of crime, I think they should be those that are not licensed and authorized and registered should be taken off the street before any apologies. In the same way, that when in the past, when the in the early days of the Barbados Defense Force, in 1979, it merely banned camouflage clothing. And when the last time when they called for the banning of hoodies, people were against it because it makes no fashion statement in Barbados. That's not and if you look at the origin of hoodies were never intended to be a fashion statement, be fashionable streetwear. Hoodies came as a means of keeping athletes warm, and a means of people who live in burial houses and working to keep them warm. That was the already natural. But then, like most things in modern life, it makes a transition into the wider world. It became fashionable with the rap artists and the performers, other artists, celebrity. So now it's become a part of standard wear. But I'm saying we have to look at the greater good. The greater good of Barbados demands that sacrifices are made to preserve the stability and the sanctity of the society for the majority, the vast majority. So there are times when other persons, minorities, will have to give up certain, particularly when they offend the national conscience and offend the ability of the country to protect itself. So I'm saying there's nothing special about hoodies. There's nothing. That's just like there was anything special about banning camouflage clothing, and we've lived with it. The world has not come to end in Barbados because people are allowed to wear fashionable camouflage clothing in public. And therefore, in the same way that you're banned camouflage clothing, let us ban the importation, sale, display, or reign of hoodies, because they contribute to the difficulty of identifying persons who are committing crime.
Yeah, more than intent.
Precisely more than intent. Let us do that, and the public would have to understand it and live with it. The minority who wear them as youngsters, they would just because you'll be also protecting them and their family and their friends from any possible. So let's get serious and do it and get that out of there. But there was any legal loopholes that prohibit from doing. Let us sort out that and get it done to me as an urgency. But the other thing, while I commend the police, commissioner of police, and the police service for the more, and I hope that we have more of these press conferences, both regularly to update the public, also as the occasion demands. I think we're now up to 31, 32 deaths, something like that.
Yeah, something in the ballpark of 32, 33, I think it is.
Right, okay, there we are. But let me deal with the commissioner that come back. Remember to come back to Minister Kurt Humphrey.
Okay.
Remember to come back to that. But I have a couple of criticisms of the presentation by the Commissioner of Police, not for content, But the visual images also help to convey messages to persons. I'm saying for the last two major press conferences, the commissioner of police has sat at a desk to deliver. If you look internationally, you see persons where they're making major announcements or police forces and where they stand. You would know
Yes.
as a preacher you stand because
Yes.
stand gives a certain status psychologically to you. First of all, it allows you to breathe better. It gives you more self-confidence. You're able to gesture. And it makes you seem as though you are in charge of the
Correct.
situation
Correct.
visually.
Correct.
That is why
Yes.
that's why people stand. It's psychological. You're
Yep.
doing
Yep.
human behavior. So it's not by accident. Not only that, by sitting, I noticed the police commissioner sat and his head was obscuring the vision statement of the Barbados Police Service. He all you can see is vision at the top. Above his head also was the crest. These symbols and representations of the police service are crucial, are just as crucial to the content and the action of the police force because they're subliminally, psychologically reinforce themselves what they're doing in the public's mind. That's why you have a national flag, a pledge, an anthem, a crest, because these visuals things are important not only for countries but for institutions, particularly the police force has an enviable task of being tasked with protecting the life and security of the country, which is the first and primary call of a government. So I'm saying I'm saying, but in addition to that, to do that, to stand, you have a redesigned podium, which you can have the same crest of the police service on the front that the camera pick up and reinforce in people's mind the police service. And all they have to do is do the same thing with the vision statement, or reposition the cameras. Rather, the camera be on him. When he stands, it can be repositioned so you see both him standing in an authoritative fashion, and also the vision statement and the image and crest of the Barbados Police Service. So that would be my recommendation for him for future things. And you can have his officers around him also standing to give him visual and institutional support. That is why when you see other institutions have persons standing, it's a way of letting the public know these people are not on their own. They are part of an institution. They're part of a body who
Yes.
stand
Yes.
together. These symbols are important. But I also, at the same thing, have a miss where that is concerned. But this does not involve the commission. This involves Minister Kurt Humphrey, who since the 25th of March, 4 months and days, has been designated Minister of Crime Prevention, replacing Minister Corey Lane. And since then, I can only recall two minor statements that he made, and I read or reported, which he said that you'd have to meet with people first and talk, and he was not ready yet to talk. I think one thing was said, I remember reading or hearing him say, and he said that he would have to, first of all, he would want to talk with the chieftains, the leaders, or the top in the crime situation, which to me did make sense because you'll be falling in the same trap that had been that Minister Lane had been falling into when he met with the leaders of the criminal situation. But apart from that, he has yet to say or do anything that will make people identify him with his role as
As
Minister,
minister.
Minister of Crime Prevention, which apart from the economy is even more than the economy is more critical
Hmm.
than anything. Barbara. His name is, and he speaks at length, and every time he talks about the great work he's done and been doing for the elderly, for the disabled, for the vulnerable groups, all important work, all critical work. But he so far has not yet, in my mind, and in the public's mind, done or said anything to associate him with crime prevention as the ministerial responsibility. And I would have thought that even with these last murders, he did not even issue a statement commending the police, supporting. He has not yet joined the battle. As minister, he's to lead the charge, and he should be prepared to leave from a friend. I think that he should do that. Uh, some people think that he's been handling a poison chalice, that it is such a complex job that it is hard to manage. Other people manage it. This will be a test of his true mettle, because he's been a much more demanding and critical role than with the other ministerial responsibilities for disabled, etc., etc. It's a nice sociable community building, nation building, but not as critical as this one. And he needs to, or as the obviously on picky teeth, and come and talk about it to the public. Because
I've heard. Sorry, Glenn. I've heard that one in a while.
but I like to use this basionism from time to time
Yes,
to
yes,
reinforce them in the minds of particularly the younger people.
yes.
So that is the thing that I want to talk about right in that regard. The other major hit would have been the presentation early this week, or was it last week, by the Democrat Labour Party on its report on crime prevention. What was it? It's called what now? It's called entitled "Blueprint to Rescue a Nation." Blueprint to Rescue a Nation, and that was presented. I forget exactly what date it was. You can probably remind me. By the lady opposite the office in a ceremony which I thought was a very impactful ceremony. And while I thought it's a major development for Barbados, both the manner, the tone, and the glimpses of the content, because I admit I have not yet read the document. And I have made it known that I want a printed copy because I'm not into online foolishness. I want to get my document, dog it, write it, make my notes. I can touch it. I don't have to depend on bandwidth or Wi-Fi. They're accessible to me anytime. So I'm willing to pay to get a copy of it. And I would suggest that the DLP, people, the Barbadians would buy that, use that to raise funds for the party. I think it's an important document from the institution, and I want to commend Lady Officer Mr. Thorne for having tasked Ms. Verdi Pisa with the responsibility of chairing that commission. And to me, she's done an exemplary job for it. And while I have not read it, I've heard enough from her to make it appear to me that it's not going to be one of these usual pro forma, routine, superficial presentation. But that it's taken reporting on crime, and while it's not exhaustive and I think it has taken us in a direction to once the details of the content live up to what has been presented so far by Mr. Pisa, I think Barbados can benefit a lot. I think the government can benefit a lot because the tone of that document so far far exceeds what I've heard coming from any other expert, consultant, professor about crime in Barbados. And I must also make another confession. I'm not surprised, therefore, at the quality of this work shared by Ms. Verdi Pisa, and obviously backed up by other members of standing that constituted the whole commission team. They did an admirable job. So they're two are to be commended. Because of my background with the social sciences, I was able to pick up certain cues. It broadened my when Ms. DePisa in making her present her summaries and insights and snapshots into the report. I could, by some of the things she said and some of the areas, I can see that there's no ordinary report, that she has gone far and wide and deep in the question of crime. But I'm not in the least bit surprised, because first I said that this is an important development for the Democratic Labour Party as an institution, particularly one that is about to have its annual conference later this month, a major milestone. To me, when this is properly presented to the public, I hope it is given online and people get copies at it. It will raise the profile of the party and its standing, because it's making the contributors make to crime. So therefore, I'm very positive. I have a very positive feeling about it. And I think it could change the whole trajectory and direction of public perception of the Democrat Labour Party. But I'm not surprised, like I said, at the quality of the content of the report. Of course, I've long been familiar with the scholastic and academic background of Ms. DePisa. Ms. DePisa has for a long time been more than just another lawyer. She has intellectual depth which comes through in her influence and obviously of the report. By saying her name, she would have to have some influence on it, right? But I know we live in an age now where education and the value of education and good education, they're not as highly valued and respected and highly regarded before. There's a time when one who won a Barbados scholarship, etc., or a Barbados exhibition, that represented excellence. But these days we're not supposed to. We want excellence in cricket, but we don't want excellence in education. You get excellent in cricket by working hard and training and practicing and doing the best. But those efforts are not supposed to go into education, the public perception. But Miss DePisa won a Barbados exhibition, which is next in ranking to a Barbados scholar. So therefore, she has brought that. In the past, I've seen her brought that kind of thinking, that kind of intellectual quality to her presentation in public. But this time, it has come even more to the fore. And to me, while she might have been held back in the past by her internal rivals and detractors in the DLP, this time should push her to the fore because it's an unchallengeable work of high intellectual quality. But Ms. DePisa not only won a Barbados scholarship, but when she went to England, she studied at the University of Southampton, where she got upper side class honors, right? Where she gave upper side class honors, and then she studied at the University of London, where she earned a merit in a Master's of Law degree that specialized in criminology and criminal justice. Her upper side class honor was in law and politics. So she's no sloth intellectually. So I want to commend her for putting the benefits of her intellect and her, which she's not yet been given the chance to demonstrate from which the public can benefit, to put it into documents from which I see. I have great respect for that, and I hope. So therefore,
we've just lost your audio.
Yeah, I'm back
Okay,
here.
good.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good. Got you back. Yeah.
yeah. So I therefore, like I say, I want to again commend her and urge as many Barbadians to read it online and best it, buy a copy. The DLP has not benefited from any subvention, which was not controlled by law or the Constitution. It's a policy decision of the state of the Parliament, what they call it, the Commission of Parliament that administers Parliament. So then there's nothing fancy for you. Don't have to amend the Constitution or pass any law. That's an internal thing by the Commission of Parliament, which contains members of Parliament from both sides, but dominated obviously by the government. And if the government had its will, if the Prime Minister had her will, wanted that, she could make it possible for them to get some kind of part of subvention as part of your contribution to the preservation of democracy. If you can give away $200 million plus to the Africa of land, and which is of perpetual value, and can only rise, why can you find it to give what, $150,000 chicken feed to the preservation of democracy and to the preservation? Because the BLP will not always be government.
That's right. That's right.
I remember that the point Arthur made when he instituted that policy, and some of those who are running high in the government said, no, don't give the DLP. And he said that And this is probably in 1994, just after 1994. He said, no, the BLP will not always be in government, and you will need it too. And when they lost in 2000, they needed it. So I'm saying that there's more than a just and deserving cause. But history will take care of it for the BLP to get a get power of the salvation. But in the meantime, this is a chance for the public to show its appreciation by making a contribution to the party
Yes,
by
yes.
buying copies of it. It's worth, believe it, worth it. And you see, what will happen is that after you read that, and when the manifesto, the DLP comes up for the next, you will see their thinking manifested in policy. Not only that, it will give us a contradistinction, a contrast by which to judge the offerings of the government. And we will not be doing as is happening in education. We had education, so-called education reform. We had committees meeting, town hall meetings, discussion, and nobody had any prior knowledge. The public did not have a prior knowledge of what was being proposed. So it meant you had to go to a meeting and react instantly to something that's being verbally presented to you, not having seen it before, to study it, to analyze it for yourself. You have to try to follow what somebody's saying in this regard. The same thing now seems to be happening with educational transformation. But this time, you will have a document that can give you the basis of the thinking. You can analyze it, you can critique it for yourself, and this would therefore allow you to make a better. You would have a more informed public, and maybe that the government might be the reason why we're not getting any real information about these things and other things which I will talk about, some of it, which I mentioned. If
Well,
the government doesn't want you to be too informed to judge them too harshly.
Well, we're going to get into a little bit of this educational aspect, Glyne, and
Okay.
hopefully you'll be able to stay with us in the show tonight.
Yeah.
There's actually a segment that Marcia has asked me to share, a video
Right.
out of Jamaica, I think it is, on education, to do with the failing of our students, because I think you would have been aware
Yeah.
that I believe this is probably, if not the worst, one of the worst years of results in terms of the I think it's the CXCs and other
Yeah.
exams
Yeah.
that we have had, which is of deep concern. So,
Okay.
and it appears that it's not just happening here. It appears that there are one or two other Caribbean countries that are experiencing a fall off in this aspect as well. So we will be touching on that later on tonight.
Okay.
But I certainly appreciate what you've been sharing, because, and I did put a copy of the link in the chat here, and in the YouTube chat, for that press conference. It was on Friday.
Oh, last Friday. Wow.
It was last Friday, Commission on Crime report. I myself did not have a chance to view it as yet, but listening to what you have presented tonight, I certainly am going to take the time. I have had one or two, not very long, but one or two interesting interactions with Ms. DePisa, and I have found her exceptionally respectful. I have found her exceptionally intellectual, informed, and she's able to present in a manner that does not disrespect who she's presenting to, even though they might not necessarily agree with her. And I have found that I have found a level of integrity, if you want to call it that. I don't know if I'm using the right word,
Yeah.
with her.
If,
Absolutely.
if I may have one last word on this.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, your last few comments reminded me that by the tone, when Miss DP presents, she was not stumbling and butting about for words or thought. She
Mhm.
flowed. She had
Right,
internalized it. You
right.
can see that it represented her work, that she knew the subject well. And that is what made it so impactful. You felt it was sincere. It was coming from her through the report.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that is what made it even more important and significant to my thinking.